Hello. Welcome to the podcasts of Dr. Pradeep, India's #1 YouTube channel, providing tips to improve your marriage and relationships.
The power of love. Loving relationships can literally be a matter of life and death. Having a supportive relationship is more predictive of warding off mortality than quitting smoking or exercising. While a toxic relationship is more damaging than no relationship at all, but love is always reciprocal and can only survive if both partners are willing to be open and honest with each other. Express gratitude, share their thoughts and feelings, and ask for support rather than trying to go it alone. Individuals often believe they are sparing their partner by keeping their troubles from them, but people can be deeply hurt when they discover that the person they love most has not confided in them or sought out their support. What is love? Romantic love could be seen as an evolutionary adaptation, a force that increases the chance of passing one's genes on to future generations. It has also been described as a force that enables partners to stay together over the long term. Some identify it as a blind force that brings people together, even without strong romantic feelings, through what's known as the mere repeated exposure effect. And others, citing different definitions and approaches to love at different times and in different cultures, describe it as merely a sociocultural construct. Does love require passion? Love has been defined by some as having three elements: intimacy, commitment, and passion. But many couples worry that their passion is declining over the years, making their connection less secure. Research, however, finds that a decrease in passion is less of a problem than a couple's belief that once it decreases it can't be restored. Partners who understand that it waxes and wanes are more likely to rekindle it and stay together. Do men or women usually say "I love you" first? Saying "I love you" for the first time is seen by many as a more significant step in a relationship than having sex for the first time. The statement implies a level of commitment, exclusivity, and intimacy that one partner may not be sure the other feels yet. Contrary to a common stereotype, though, men are much more likely to say those three words first, and more likely to report having felt love first in a relationship. Talking about sex. Even couples that are generally successful at addressing other issues get stuck when it comes to talking about sex. Many people assume that great sex should not require conversation, but that often leads to years of stale or unsatisfying encounters. Research finds that people avoid talking about uncomfortable topics because they imagine that what they say might threaten a relationship, especially if it's about sexual fantasies or interest in unconventional sex, that expressing concern about their sex life will hurt their partner's feelings, or because they're reluctant to reveal too much about themselves for fear of feeling shame or being shamed. But research also shows that partners willing to discuss intimacy with each other are generally happier with their relationships because they discover that their sexual concerns are usually not, after all, a sign that their relationship is in trouble. How can partners negotiate unconventional sex? It's easier when partners understand that in actuality, most types of unconventional sex are pretty common. Surveys find that most couples have in fact engaged in what would generally be considered kinky sex play, or at least had fantasies about it. Couples who understand this and worry less about violating norms are more able to talk about their desires and more likely to maintain satisfying connections. Should I tell my partner about my sexual fantasies? Many people imagine that their fantasies may be extreme or improper, or that they'd be unwelcome by their partner. Often, that's not the case. Most people report having more fantasies about their current partner than about anyone else. Men's and women's fantasies are broadly similar. And, in general, couples that acted on a fantasy reported that it went well. Is sexting good for a relationship? Partners in long-term relationships generally sex much less often than younger people, or those in new relationships. But about 12% of such partners report having sexted each other, and research suggests that those who send some kind of sexual message to a partner report greater relationship well-being. With one important distinction: sending nude or semi-nude photos was linked with greater relationship ambivalence. Is BDSM good or bad for a long-term relationship? Many people in long-term BDSM relationships report high satisfaction and believe that their partnerships are widely misunderstood by those who do not take part. Fundamentally, they say, their relationships are about trust, not abuse, or built around play, not dominance, or generally safely choreographed, and that the submissives are typically the ones in charge. Facing sexual challenges. There is no universal prescription for a healthy sex life. There are happy couples that have sex multiple times a week, and satisfied couples that hardly ever have sex. But many couples do encounter serious conflicts around their sex lives, often having to do with discrepancy in desire. When one partner, and it's not always a man, has a much higher sex drive than the other, it can threaten a relationship, with one person feeling pressure to have more sex. and the other feeling rejected. Bringing such concerns out into the open can help assuage hurt feelings, and meeting with a couples therapist may help partners find common ground. What can you do when a partner becomes sexually coercive? Few people in otherwise happy long-term relationships would characterize sexual begging or pressure from their partner as sexual assault. But sexual coercion and unwanted intimacy, even if it's not physically aggressive, is a serious concern that partners should address before it becomes normalized, and seek to re-establish healthy boundaries and ground rules. How do women with high sex drives manage relationships? The common stereotype is that men have higher sex drives than women, and maintain a higher sex drive as they age. But that's not always the case, and many women have a much stronger libido than their male partners. Women with high sex drives may find increased satisfaction through greater mental presence during sex and more open communication with their partners about their desires and fantasies. What can I do if a partner doesn't meet my sexual needs? Is one obligated to have sex more often with a partner who has a higher sex drive, even if they find it unpleasant? And if one is unwilling to do so, is the other partner justified in seeking sex elsewhere? Before anyone launches an affair or walks away from a relationship, partners should discuss the needs that are not being met and whether it justifies the end of their connection or some other new understanding. Can couples stay together even if they stop having sex? Long-term relationships can thrive with little or no sex, as long as both partners are okay with it. More often, one or the other partner enters the relationship with a much lower sex drive or experiences a significant decline over the long term. When that happens, it can put intense pressure on a couple's connection and lead to an unhappy dynamic in which one constantly chases the other. Often such a disparity benefits from couples therapy,